Recently, I have gone back and replayed Spider-Man PS4 and Miles Morales just to remind myself of the story before the sequel comes out in October. As I was playing, there was a couple things that happened that I forgot about that I would like to see resurface in the new game. First off, I would like to see double missions between Peter and Miles. Throughout the time period after Miles gains his powers, in both games, besides the first random mission in Miles' game, we never see the two Spider-Men working together on crimes. This could lead to a great opportunity to see moves that can only be pulled off by two Spider-Men and not just one. This one contains spoilers for the first DLC in the game, so if you don't want to get spoiled about that DLC, go to this time in the video. Number 2. Peter and MJ become parents. In the DLC, Peter's ex, Felicia Hardy, aka the Black Cat, makes it seem like Peter is the father to her son. At the end, it is revealed that Felicia doesn't actually have a son, and she lies to Peter to get him to help her take down Hammerhead. As I was playing, however, I thought Peter and MJ would make great parents based off the interactions that they had after the revelation that Peter might be the father to Felicia's son. If this happens, this could also introduce Peter and MJ's daughter, May Parker, as a future Spider-Person, especially with the death of Aunt May in the first game. Speaking of Black Cat, number 3 is more Black Cat missions. I'm not talking about the missions where you go around as Peter, taking pictures of the places where Cat robbed. I'm talking about allowing the player to play as Felicia. Being able to play as her will allow us to learn more about this backstory between her and Peter, as well as having a different fighting style for the player compared to playing as the two Spider-Men. The story can also be as simple as Felicia following clues that leads to her learning that her father is still alive. Number 4. Introduce S.H.I.E.L.D. As you fight the Taskmaster for the second time, he mentions he was hired by someone to test Peter's skills. That group should be S.H.I.E.L.D. It makes sense for S.H.I.E.L.D. to want to have knowledge about every hero running or swinging around New York, even if Peter and Miles aren't members of the Avengers. The game could even go down the path of Hydra with Thunderbolt Ross, hiring Taskmaster, which could also lead to S.H.I.E.L.D. introducing themselves to put a stop to one of those groups recruiting Peter and Miles, which could lead to S.H.I.E.L.D. introducing themselves to put a stop to one of those groups recruiting Peter or Miles. Number 5. A Peter versus Yuri boss fight. I think this one is almost inevitable. Even if it's likely to be a fight in the DLC for the game, the fight should be super emotional, as in my head Peter and Yuri have not seen or talked to each other since the end of the first game. Since Yuri and Peter have shown to have a great relationship up until Yuri started killing the criminals that she was supposed to be arresting, the fight between the two should be emotional, as the history between the two characters is too much for them both to handle. So much so that the players should almost be reluctant to fight Yuri, as they remember the friendship the two characters had during the first game. Number 6. Crooked Cops. Spider-Man has never had a perfect relationship with the general public in the comics, especially cops. There ought to be some people who think that Spider-Man is not the good guy that he is. You even hear talks about people blaming people for the Elizabeth situation when you're playing through the DLC in the first game. That thought process could bleed over to the police department. So that thought process being combined with Yuri running around and her knowing how to talk to police officers, there's a good possibility that she can convince some of them to attack Peter and Miles, and they can replace the demons as one of the crime tokens, since demons should no longer be running around in the city game. Number 7. Symbiote Peter meets Screwball. This is just because everyone wants to get their hands on Screwball and rack up the amount of money that she is going to have to pay for her hospital bill. Screwball gets on everybody's nerves when they are playing the game. And if it's Symbiote Peter who interacts with Screwball, this will allow more damage to be done by the player to Screwball, which should also allow the player to have more fun while playing the game. Number 8. There is nothing to be said on number 8, as it's just a meme, so I'm just going to play the video clip.
Surprise, shocker? Let me tell it to you straight. I am invincible! Get back here, shocker!
Since soccer and the symbiote are already in the game, it only makes sense for this joke to be included as a shot-for-shot recreation of the scene from the 90s SpiderMan cartoon. Number 9. Post-credit scene. The past 2 games have had post-credit scenes regarding Norman Osborn. I think this trend could and will continue since Norman's son Harry will be a big part of the game, whether he is Venom or not. I think this trend with Norman will definitely continue. I think that post-credit scene will entail Norman and Dr. Octavius having a conversation in which Otto tells Norman that Peter is Spider-Man. The only problem with this is that why would Otto trust Norman? However, I think Otto's hatred for Peter will outweigh his untrustworthiness of Norman and also his hatred of Norman. Especially if Norman mentions to Otto what he has planned with the goblet suit, that you find out how you're playing as MJ when you're running around Oscorp. This will allow Otto to realize that he needs to have Norman's help as the Goblin, whether it's Green Goblin or Hobgoblin or hell, even a combination between Goblin and Venom. So once Norman gets told by Otto about this information about Peter, that only leaves the question of whether or not Norman and Otto spills the beans about Peter's identity to the rest of the world, which I think they eventually will, which could lead to the third game. These were only a few things that came to mind while I was playing. If you have any more, leave a comment, and I might do a part 2 with y'all's comments.